Hello. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Josh Cohen. I play Dapper Dave on Schlock Theater. Well, did Schlock Theater isn't running right now. Um, and I make Too Good to Lasts where I play myself. I guess I don't think I have a character for that one. It's just me talking. Maybe it's Dapper Dave. I don't know. Uh, but I make both of those shows. You can watch both of them online. And I'm making this vlog about Star Trek, the new Star Trek movie that I saw a while ago. And I took my good sweet time to get into this vlog. I probably should have made it a while back, but I didn't. I'll get into why in a bit. First I want to address. I've been getting a couple questions about Schlock Theater. Not many, because I have like two fans. So, but they really wanted to know stuff, and I guess I'll address those first. Schlock Theater isn't running right now because I don't have the time to get them out at the rate that I would like to. And a bunch of people have been asking, well, will it come back? It probably isn't. Certainly not for a while. I'm I'm not interested in doing any more right now. I'm not particularly happy with the show. I'm thinking of other ways I might try and improve it. Even if Schlock Theater does come back, it probably isn't coming back as it was before. Sorry, I'm looking at me. I'm recording this on my laptop because to record on my camera, there's the memory cards, and they don't really hold an ongoing take. They'll break it up. Um, I have a cable that allows me to like run it through here, and I can play it that way. But then I need to get a whole setup going, and I don't feel like doing that. I'm stalling on doing Star Trek. Sorry about that. Anyway, Schlock Theater, not going to be doing those for a while. Maybe they'll come back. More likely, there are a bunch of things that I want to do and that I might be doing at some point when I just have the time. So keep an eye out. I'll be updating probably my YouTube channel more than my Blip channel, but we'll see. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Facebook. I don't think I have a page on Facebook. I'll make a page for Facebook, and then you can follow me. In the meantime, follow me on Twitter at I think it's Twitter at Schlock Theater. So there. Anyway, Star Trek. You can tell I'm wearing my Forbidden Planet T-shirt because my Star Trek T-shirt got destroyed a while ago. I need a new Star Trek T-shirt. I need a few new Star Trek T-shirts. Anyway, I'm stalling. What did I think of Star Trek? Well, if you follow me on Facebook if you're my friend on Facebook, um, and I think if you follow me on Twitter, I think I updated my Twitter about this. I probably didn't. Um, but anyway, if you know me on Facebook, you know I really didn't like it. In fact, I didn't like it a lot. I didn't like it at all. Uh, not a popular opinion, which is kind of why I've been putting this off. In a weird way, I was kind of hoping I'd get scooped that someone would make a vlog as negative as I feel about it and get all the points across. Most people have been liking it, but usually there's at least one person, and especially with what they did, I think I was expecting more people to be upset, but they don't seem to be. Um, and I'll admit that the more positive stuff that came out about the movie, the more I was getting anxious about putting something up online about it. Which is weird because, like, I did Schlock Theater's review of The Wizard of Oz, which was a negative review, and no one cared. But there is sort of this thing with the internet that I have where if I know you in real life, or even if I'm just talking to you in real life, I will give you a very honest, very frank opinion. Because typically, A, I know who you are. Pardon me. I know who you are, so I have usually a general idea of how you'll react, and it will usually not be violent or like too pissy. But even more than that, it's because you're right there. So I know if you're talking to me, you're not going to be hiding behind the anonymity that comes with the internet. So like the I know this makes me sound like a bit of a pansy, and maybe I am a bit of a pansy, but I just don't really want to deal with like trolls and with people who are going to put out these very vitriolic comments. If you do, I actually probably don't care, but I just the more I thought about it, the more I just didn't want to deal with it. Now clearly I do, because I'm putting out the video. Hold on, this I think that looks a little bit better. Um, anyway, but the other reason was I'll be getting into the review at some point, but the other reason was I went to see this with a friend of mine, and we're both relatively sized Star Trek fans. I'm an old a TOS fan, but I'm not like a Trekkie, I guess. Well, once I say that, like I'm not a colossal fan. That it's not my favorite show. It wasn't like the first show I ever saw. It would probably make my top 10 list of shows though. I do really like it. It had an impact on me, and I still like it a lot. And the first 6 movies, but it's well the good ones of the first 6 movies. But it's not like I know every alien species by heart. I know every thing about the universe by heart. I'm not that type of fan. He's a big Next Generation fan, but he also really likes the original series, and he knows a lot about the original series. It's just he's not as big a fan of it as he is Picard and and Picard's crew. But we went to see it. Um, I'm not sure what his opinion was of the last movie. I'm sure he's told me. I can't remember it now. I'm not in the list giving him by name. Um, I I personally I liked the last I didn't like the last movie, but I wasn't like hateful towards it. It was sort of just a very generic adventure space movie to me. And it wasn't a Star Trek movie. That was really why I came away with it. But we went there, we sat through this movie, and there comes a part towards the end of this movie, and we got so angry sitting there watching the new one, Star Trek Into Darkness. We got so angry. Like, if you were looking at us, we would be like having one of those cartoon reactions to movies. Like, I was just sitting there gripping the arms of the chair with my eyes bulging out like this and just veins popping out everywhere. I was so mad. And I turned to him, and he's just silently chanting the word no over and over and over again. It's almost funny thinking back. So I think I wanted time to pass before giving a full opinion of the movie, just to make sure that that one scene didn't taint the whole movie for me. And to an extent, it does. It does, and it did. But also to an extent, it's even without that scene, it's not a very good movie. And if you've seen the movie, you know what scene I'm talking about. I'm betting you do. And I'll be getting to that. I'm gonna be covering like the whole movie, basically. So word of warning now, spoilers. I'll try and be saving the spoiler stuff for later. If I get into serious territory, I'll probably warn you again, just in case. But I'm warning you right now. If you want to know my opinion on the movie, I don't think it's very good. If you're looking for just a fun adventure movie, I guess this will work. I still don't think it's very good, even on that level. But other people have been getting that out of it. So I guess on that level, I can recommend it there. If you're thinking like me, and I'll be getting into spoiler stuff, so Like if you see the movie and you like got mad, come back and watch this and see me vent, and you'll be going like, he's right," or maybe you hate it for completely different reasons. But I'm not making sense. Uh, anyway, the point of the movie is like, if you want my short opinion, I hate it. I really do. I hate this movie. And now I'll be getting into spoilers a little later. Just sort of vague opinions on the whole new J.J. Abrams universe, which I'm not a big fan of. Um, for a few of the things are stuff that like everybody agrees with. I don't like the new Enterprise. I don't like the look of it inside, where everything's all sort of white and sleek, and they've got the blue screens. It sort of looks like Starfleet outsourced the job to Apple, and I'm not a fan of that. It doesn't look like Star Trek to me anymore. It looks weird. I've heard people make the argument though that like the original Enterprise was not going to work. I understand that it had wood paneling and stuff, but they said like that was based on the designs then of what they assumed the future would be, and this is based on now what we assume the future will be. It's not what I assume the future will be, but I guess I can get it. But from just a personal standpoint, I don't like it. But the thing that people really seem to like, and that I'm not on board with still, is the cast. I'll say right now, the cast in this movie, they've gotten better. I think they've improved a lot. Except for Carl Urban, who was absolutely amazing in the first movie. He's absolutely amazing here. I wish they would use more of him. He plays McCoy. I think he plays McCoy. Yeah, he plays McCoy. If he doesn't play McCoy, I'm wrong. uh, but the one thing that there are two actors in particular that I have a problem with. One, I've been hearing a lot of people agreeing with me. One, I don't think anyone really agrees with me. But the first one is I don't like Chris Pine as Kirk. And the people who disagree with me seem to go with the argument that he's a whole new, more complicated Kirk. And I will admit he's an entirely new Kirk. I don't think he's more complicated. And I don't think he's any better here than he was in the last movie. And I'll be getting more into that later on. But essentially the way I put it with Kirk and with most of the other characters is I feel like they took the complexities and the stuff from the old series and the old characters that made them interesting, and I just feel like they've dumbed them down a lot. I feel sort of like if you've ever seen Stargate SG-1, they have the episode 200, I think it is, the one where they like all get together and they think up different reimaginings of what Stargate would be like if it were trying to be more like these other franchises. And they have one in there where they take Stargate SG-1, all the characters, and they young them up and they sort of make like the phony baloney hip and new young Stargate SG-1 crew, where they're still the characters, but now they've been boiled down to like moody, emo, obnoxious versions of themselves, like really stupid, obnoxious versions of themselves, and everything's blown out and obvious. That's sort of the way I feel with the new movies, is they took the complexities and they boiled them down to really very, very simple characteristics, and ones that in many ways feel like really bad reinterpretations. For instance, Kirk is known as a bit of like a womanizer and a rebel, but if you watch the show, you'll note that he's not really. Now it's too dark. I didn't like it because I got the blue here and the orange here, but whatever. Now I felt my face was too dark. Again, apologies for the audio and video quality. I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but we will see. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, Kirk's not really a womanizer and a rebel. You watch the show, and he sleeps with a lot of women, but almost every single time he wants to form a relationship with that woman. Like, he's not really a womanizer, he's more of a romantic in an odd way. He's a very weirdly perverse romantic, but he is a romantic in that he does sort of form relationships with these people. He doesn't just like one and done. He's very respectful of women, and he views them as equals, and he just wants to bone them. Um, and the new movie has basically turned him into a 16-year-old boy. Where like they even have a scene in this movie where they have I forget her name, but she's playing a character. She's playing well it, I can't remember her name, but the new woman. You see her in the trailer. She's the blonde woman, and they have a scene where she strips down to her underwear, and the entire scene's purpose is basically Kirk is there, and she's like stripping down, and he looks back and gives like a little smug smile, and she's like, "Oh, Kirk, you filthy pervert." Like, and it doesn't feel. I feel like the writers don't get Kirk, and I feel like the J.J. Abrams doesn't get Kirk, and I feel like Chris Pine doesn't have the charisma to pull off Kirk. And in terms of the rebel thing is something that gets brought up a lot. Here's the thing with Kirk. If you watch the show, if you see the movies, you'll see that he actually respects the rules and Starfleet as an establishment a lot. He actually is very much like a soldier with them, and he's willing to side with them. The only times he breaks the rules, it's not even when he has a healthy disrespect for the rules. It's that he when they're the only way out. When he views the rule as being really like it's really hurting his crew or his mission. It's really getting in the way, and there's no reason for it, and there's no other way to do it. If he can find a way to do it within the rules or to twist the rules, he'll do that. He's clever. He's not an asshole. And I don't get that feeling from Chris Pine. I kicked the stand. My apologies. I don't get that feeling from him. I don't feel that healthy respect for him, and the movies don't seem to agree, and I feel like that's dumbing down. But the other character, and I know people are going to get upset about this, Zachary Quinto gets brought up a lot as like, oh my god, he's the only actor who could play Spock. I don't feel like he's really playing Spock. And you can make the argument he's playing a completely different character. Like somehow Eric Bana completely switched how Spock was going to be, or how this was all going to play out, but he's not Spock to me. And I feel like the biggest issue is, this is I'm actually pulling from another review. I don't remember who said it, but another review, which I think was actually generally positive. Weirdly enough, I keep reading reviews that are very positive, but they bring up a lot of problems with the movie, and they say like, oh, this is what they're getting wrong. They say he's not so much half Vulcan as he's quarter Vulcan. And I agree with that. I think he's showing... Pardon me. I'm very sorry. I think he's showing way too much emotion for Spock. Like, Leonard Nimoy shows up, and he has a very deadpan respectability about him. Where you look at him, and occasionally you'll see emotion peek through, but it's stuff that he can easily deny. Like, he has emotions, but he'll easily deny them, and he doesn't like to admit having them. This new guy hates emotions, and he's angry about them, and he's visibly angry about them, and that feels wrong. That feels very wrong to me. Other characters are sort of mixed. Uhura I don't like, not because they're not doing Uhura from the show, where I can understand you not really pulling off Uhura from the show. She was very much the chick. But, and it's a big but, they seem to have redefined her with one of my least favorite, with one of my most hated women's cliches in media. The what do they call it? The sort of strong, independent woman complex, or at least that's how it was in the first movie. Here it's a little different, and I'm not sure it's better, but it is a little different. Where in the first movie, like she was basically there just to be like, because she's a woman, she's the strongest and most independent woman in Starfleet because she had to be to get where she is, and she's so therefore she's smarter than everybody, and she's more respectful of the rules and the administration, and she's there to just sort of frown and wag her finger at Kirk like an angry school matron, and I hated that so much. I really did, because that's just sort of like replacing one generation's horrible cliche with another. And you see this all the time. Now I can't think of an example. The John Carter of Mars, I think, was actually kind of a big one. Or no, Elizabeth Swann. Elizabeth Swann in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, or at least the first one. I think the only one I like is the first one. But the others are okay-ish, maybe not really. But Elizabeth Swann's whole thing is she's in this time period, and they keep trying to show you how proactive a character she is and how assertive a character she is, but it's really all just there so that you don't feel as bad when she gets captured or gets put into danger and the guy has to take the proactive role and save her. And that ticks me off. That really does. It's it's not strong independent woman. It's dumbass in distress, where they show the woman as being very strong, very capable, but they're doing it in so much of a way, and it's so much a part of her character that she's basically just doing it so that you don't complain when she gets shoved to the background. And that's sort of what I feel Uhura did. Here, they actually did something kind of worse, and in that her character seems to be defined as Spock's girlfriend. Like, that's her big character arc in the movie, is that she's Spock's girlfriend and she's like getting upset at being Spock's girlfriend, and that's her whole shtick in the movie. In Into Darkness, that's sort of her whole shtick. And I'll be getting more into how badly they handle it, because they do. They handle it very badly. But even more so, it's kind of insulting just from a character standpoint, because they basically took a character who they keep trying to explain to you, oh my god, look, she knows all these languages, and she can like handle herself in a fight, and she knows how to do all this stuff, but her big role is really just to support Spock. And I don't know, that pisses me off. McCoy I said I really liked, and I do. I think he's actually got it down pat. I do wish the writers would include him more in the stories. The main three characters in the show are Kirk, Spock, McCoy. That's like the typical trio is the Kirk, Spock, McCoy. And I feel like McCoy hasn't stepped up to the McCoy role, largely because I feel like the writers are actually kind of splitting McCoy between... pardon me. Between, weirdly enough, Spock. Spock takes up a lot of... Or Kirk. Kirk and Spock seem to sort of split the McCoy-ness. And Uhura seems to be like, whenever there's a three-way battle over the ethics, Uhura takes up the other end of that. And that kind of pisses me off. Like, they have a few scenes where McCoy gets to McCoy it up, but I don't feel like he's really stepped it up. I actually thought he had a much better job of it in the previous movie, the 2009 Star Trek, than he did here. And that ticks me off. Chekhov's annoying, but the character was always kind of annoying, so I don't know. I hated him much more in the 2009 version than here. Here I think he's actually okay, although they have a really weird thing they have him doing here. I'll get into that. Again, so much of this is just... Yeah, I'll get to that. But they have a weird thing for him. Sulu is not George Takei, and because of that, I'm very colored. Sulu was one of my favorite characters when I was watching the show as a kid, because he got to fly the ship, and he was always very calm and cool and Asian. And that's cool. James Cho, I guess, is better. The writers are at least handling him better. He's sounding more like Sulu here than he did before. James Cho, I think the biggest problem is he, he and Zachary Quinto, I think both actually have this problem. Their voices are too damn high. Like, Leonard Nimoy and George Takei are very much known for their deep voices, and I feel like we really need someone who can do that. And I know they're younger, but they're not going to drop enough. They're still going to sound mostly like this when they get older, and really, you couldn't find anybody with a deeper voice for these parts. That annoys me. But a lot of my annoyances for this come from knowledge of the original characters. If you don't know them, then the acting is fine. And Simon Pegg as Scotty, pretty good, pretty good. I think that one, as an actor, Simon Pegg has Scotty down. I think the writers need to sort of figure it out a bit more, figure out more what to do with him. I feel like they're really not entirely sure how his character is supposed to work. But Simon Pegg, I think, has the roll down pat, to the point where I even noticed he was standing a bit like Scotty in the movie. And I appreciate that. I appreciate little touches like that the actors do. And for the most part, I guess I'm better with them now, but they haven't made the final transition for me into the characters that I want to see them. But anyway, trying to think where to go from here. Where do I begin on my hatred of this movie? Other than J.J. Abrams is the devil. I really... Okay, that's probably a good place to start. I really don't like J.J. Abrams to begin with. I should probably start off by saying that. I hate him more now than I did before, but I didn't like him before largely because he's getting all of this power and prestige and credibility, and frankly, he doesn't have much of a style or tone. He doesn't bring anything new to the table. He's a very safe director. He doesn't do anything new or unique. And usually he doesn't do anything very good. He feels very boilerplate to me. And that irritates me a lot. Again, I'm going to borrow from Movie Bob here, but I think, much like him, I think it really says something that the one time he manages to make an original movie that's his idea and that he feels very passionate about, and it's basically just a watered-down Spielberg movie, from beginning to end. It's all just taking the themes, the tones, the styles of Spielberg, and just watering them down to a malleable mush that everyone can like. Which is also why I think, even though it got a massive reception when it came out, I don't know anyone who really remembers much about it today. And that's sort of my thoughts on J.J. Abrams. I got pissed when it was announced he was doing new Star Wars. I'm still not happy about that. But at least I feel he's better with that than Star Trek. But enough about J.J. Abrams. That was actually the wrong way to go, because ultimately it's the writers I have a problem with in this movie. Although he hires the writers and he comes up with the story. So what is the story? Well, the movie opens on the planet that we see in the trailer with the red trees and forest and shit, and they are there. And the way that works is Kirk goes to this planet. He breaks the Prime Directive to save this planet from a disaster that was going to wipe it out. I'm going to get to that. Spoiler-free plot summary. He does that. So he gets talked down to. None of this is necessary. Here's the plot in a nutshell. The villain, John Harrison, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, is a terrorist who attacks Starfleet directly and kills a lot of people, and then escapes to the far edges, past Federation space into Klingon territory. And so Kirk and his crew request to go out there and retrieve him on a covert mission, which they do, only to then discover that there's this big conspiracy behind him. And right away, you can probably tell what the big problem with the movie, what the big spoiler of the movie is. Everyone knew it. John Harrison is Khan. Everyone knew that. Even that's not even a spoiler. Spoilers will be beyond this point, though, because everyone knew that. Everyone knew that going into this movie. And first of all, I'm going to address this now. I'll be getting more into it later, but I'm going to address this now. Another big thing that everyone's been praising about the movie is Benedict Cumberbatch. And I like Benedict Cumberbatch. I think he's really good on Sherlock. I think he's a talented actor who's got a lot ahead of him. That said, this is not his best role. I don't think he's very good in this. To be entirely honest, I think I can hear the fangirls breaking down my door right now. So I better talk fast. Anyway, again, he's not bad. There are two major things that are not his fault that really hinder him, and that I think really wreck his performance. First of all, he is horribly miscast. Khan is supposed to be, like anyone who knows Khan, Ricardo Montalban, he's this very charismatic, this Indian, with this big, burly Indian guy who's very charismatic. Benedict Cumberbatch is best known for playing, well, first of all, Benedict Cumberbatch is a tall, gangly, pale-faced, he's the palest man on the planet. Like, you could not have whitewashed this guy more. And they put makeup on him to make him look more pale, with big blue eyes. And the role he's most known for is an antisocial dickwad who has absolutely no interest in being charismatic at all. And so right from the get-go, he was not a good choice, I think. He was a very poor choice, both from a physical appearance standpoint and even just from a style of acting. Khan requires a very grand... Benedict Cumberbatch has a very intense presence. He does not have a very grand presence. Benedict Cumberbatch does not... He is not as big a character as he should be. So even from that standpoint, he's not right. Like, not exactly overacting, but just sort of... Actually a little overacting, but more sort of like just his ability... When Khan reads Moby Dick and he in Star Trek II and he goes all out with it, he says it as though he's performing it on a stage to an audience that's directly there. And you need that with the type of villain Khan is. And even to an extent with the way they're playing him here. And Benedict Cumberbatch is not that. He plays everything as though he's playing it to just the characters in the room, which from a logical standpoint makes sense, but it's not what Khan needs. And he doesn't do it very well here. The biggest problem, though, is that the writers don't really set out Khan's personality. Again, people who know Khan know that his biggest personality trait is his undying revenge to get Kirk. That's pretty much the character everyone knows. That's how he is meant to be played. They can't do that here, because they've reset the timeline. He and Kirk have never met. There's no reason for him to want revenge on Kirk. So instead of giving him a proper personality, they now sort of have him split on he is this charismatic, highly intellectual guy who's like planned everything 8 stages out, even though clearly this is a plan that he's making up off the cuff and doesn't actually make any sense if you think about it for more than like a minute, or at all. Actually, if you apply any thought to this, the entire movie crumbles and makes no sense. io9.com put up an article that I actually have up on my computer here. Not because I'm ripping it off, but just because I knew I was going to refer back to it at some point. Because they pretty much got what I have against this movie in a nutshell. I'm not there yet. yet. But it's Star Trek Into Darkness, the spoiler FAQ, and and they point out like all the plot holes and all the things that don't make sense about the movie. And when it's all laid bare like that, like I figured out most of them right off the cuff, because the moment I started walking out of the movie, me and my friends started talking about it and thinking about it. And I think if you think about it, it's not going to make sense anyway. Um, but I don't. There are some things like, because they revealed later on, you then realize that the stuff before doesn't make sense, and I'll get into that. This is going to be a long Vila. Actually, it might not. We're only 35 minutes in. Who knows how long this will be. Um, but anyway, his personality, they have him sort of split between wanting revenge on this admiral for some reason that's not really fully explained. He seems more like he wants to get revenge on him for something he might do, I think. I was actually kind of lost in what his plans were there, but he also wants to protect his crew. I'll get to that. He is sort of like at times it seems more like they're trying to play him off as an anti-hero. Other times he's a barbarian. Other times he's a mash of cliches from terrorists, from movies going back the last 10 years, like just everything made in the last 10 years mushed together. So he doesn't really have a character to play. He just is whatever the plot needs him to be. Pardon me. He is whatever the plot needs him to be. And so because of that, Benedict Cumberbatch's response seems to just be to stand there staring intensely at you and reading the dialogue in the most intense way possible. Basically, he's doing an Alan Rickman impersonation, is what it reminded me of. Although, I'll be honest, he's probably the thing I'm forgetting the most about in this movie. He has a presence when he's on screen, but the moment he's off screen, you kind of forget he's there. Which is really bad, because he's supposed to be the villain. He's in all the trailers, and I have to keep, every time he comes back on, I'm like, oh yeah, you're in the movie too. I kind of forgot. He does not have a long-lasting, he doesn't leave an impression, is the big issue with the character. He does not leave an impression on you. Or at least he didn't on me. And I've been hearing a lot of people compliment him. I have not been hearing a lot of people give very detailed explanations of what they like about him. Whereas, like, Heath Ledger played the Joker. I have qualms with Heath Ledger playing the Joker, but one thing I will say, and I think everyone would agree, when you see Heath Ledger play the Joker, that performance sticks with you. You can describe it. You can feel it. You can remember everything he says, and you remember how he does it. And it's not just what's written there, it's how he's portraying it and all the ad-lib stuff. He has a presence that sticks in your brain and stays with you throughout, like, years after you see that movie. Benedict Cumberbatch doesn't in this. He's not giving enough, he's not doing enough different or enough well to really stand behind you. He's sort of just letting his deep voice and blue eyes do all of the work for him at leaving and at being intimidating. That's where I'm looking for. He's intimidating. He's not interesting. He does not withstand. The words are failing me right now. I wish I'd written something down and read it or posted it, but because I'm just sounding stupid now probably, which is not helping my case. But if you've seen the movie, do you get what I'm saying? He doesn't feel different enough from everything else out there, and he doesn't feel like he's doing it better than anyone else could have done it. I don't feel like walking away from this movie, I don't feel like I'm going to be seeing a lot of people doing impressions of him. I don't feel like I'm going to be seeing people quoting him the same way they quote Khan or the Joker or Bane or Loki from the Avengers or Javier Bardem from Skyfall has this great character that he just goes all out on, and he adds these little quirks to the voice and to the way he moves and to everything about him, and Benedict Cumberbatch doesn't. That's kind of what I'm getting at. But the real issues, and that's a problem, because I'm not especially fond of the way the heroes are playing it, but at least they're playing characters. But your villain isn't really much of anything. He's just there to move the plot along. And that makes it very hard to get involved in the story, which is a dumb story, but I'll get into that. Actually, no, I'll get into that now. Okay, so first we have the scene on the Red Planet. And they sort of set up that the Enterprise went there to survey the people on this planet, which I'm not sure if they're a pale skinned race with black eyes, or if the pale skin was makeup over their bodies. I don't know, something about it looked very fake to me. But that's a very minor nitpick in the grand scheme of things. And so the pale-skinned people end up chasing Kirk, who is, what they discover is the volcano is going to erupt and destroy the planet. First thing, how does a volcano erupting destroy a planet? It's not even like a volcano larger than you can possibly imagine. I'm not even sure it's Mount Vesuvius sized. It's a regular volcano. And I can believe it destroying all life on the island. But is there no other life on the planet? Is there no other continents? Or will it get into the atmosphere? How is this one volcano going to destroy the whole planet? I'm not clear on that, and they never really explain it. But they decide they're going to get involved, even though the Prime Directive tells them not to, but they're going to do it because this Kirk doesn't give two shits about the Prime Directive. To be fair, like, Kirk would save them, he'd just be smarter about it than this Kirk. But their plan is, McCoy and Kirk are leading the people away from the volcano, I think so that they don't notice the shuttle with Sulu, Uhura, and Spock flying down. The plan is they're going to fly down into the volcano, leave a cold fusion bomb in the volcano that Spock will erupt, get dragged up by the shuttle, and then the shuttle's going to go back to the Enterprise. First of all, that's not what cold fusion is. And they say cold fusion bomb. They do. That is the words they use. That's not what a cold fusion bomb is. Cold fusion bombs do not erupt ice. That is not what a cold fusion bomb is. A cold fusion bomb is a bomb that launches an explosion that is less hot than a regular explosion. You launch an explosion in a volcano, that's not going to help anything. I know nothing of science. I know that. And why do they have a cold fusion bomb? Did Spock make that up on the fly? Did they have spare parts for a cold fusion bomb? Why is the cold fusion bomb on there? Anyway, I'm nitpicking now. Here's where the plot gets stupid, though. They fly into the volcano. And yeah, I'm giving away the whole plot. So like I said before, there are spoilers. If you didn't believe me the first 2 times, get out now. Spoilers are coming. I've already spoiled a little bit, but this is the opening scene of the movie, so who gives a shit? And again, like IO9 sort of covered all the problems with the Red Planet. They've covered a lot of my problems, actually, so I highly recommend you go read them. He I thought was actually pretty clever about it. A lot of comments didn't like it, but it's the internet, and you say anything on the internet, a lot of people aren't going to like it. That's just the way it is. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Anyway, Spock is, attached to the shell on a cable. The cable, for some reason, the cable burns off and dumps Spock in, but Spock's okay. I guess the suit's made of a different material than the cable. I'll buy that, I guess. And the shuttle has to fly away, leaving Spock in the volcano with the cold fusion bomb, which has to be dialed manually because apparently in the future there's no such thing as a fucking remote control or a timer or anything, so that they could have just dumped the bomb from space Nope, Spock had to go in personally. And then, Kirk and McCoy escape the aliens and jump off of a cliff into the water where the Enterprise is. Under the water. A few things. First of all, the ship can survive underwater. Like, the water's not like space. This is under the ocean. This is deep under the ocean. So there's all the pressure that they have to worry about. There's water probably getting into the engines. Like, how are they going to start up now? There's probably a lot of sensitive sensors on the edge of the Enterprise that are now not going to work because it's underwater. And they have it underwater. Futurama made fun of this. They had the whole bit with like the Planet Express ship going underwater, and Fry goes like, "How many atmospheres of pressure can the Planet Express ship take?" "Well, it's a spaceship, so my guess is somewhere between 1 and none at all." Like that's it. I guess they could have had the shields up, but then you hit my next problem. How did they get the Enterprise underwater? Because it's right next to the fucking island. Like, they've said they weren't spotted. Did they go at night? If so, did no one hear the engines of a spaceship fly by and land in the water? Did they, like, go underwater somewhere else and fly under the water? How do you fly a ship under the water? Like, you can't fly a plane underwater. You can't fly a shuttle underwater. How do you do this and then? How do you do that? How do you get the Enterprise under the water with no one noticing? Like, that's like trying to drive a tank by an Aztec village, like inches away from the Aztec village, with no one noticing. They're gonna fucking notice. We're still on the first scene of the movie. And there's one other thing. Why are they underwater? That's never actually addressed. Like, Scotty complains about it, but they never actually address why they couldn't launch the shuttle from space. Or why they couldn't transport Kirk and McCoy up. Or McCoy down when they needed to lure the other aliens away. And they give, like, some reason why they can't use the transporter then, but they can then transport Spock out of the volcano somehow. Yeah, they do that. That's where he really breaks the Prime Directive, is then the Enterprise pops up out of the water, flies over the volcano, and gets Zachary Quinto out of the volcano, and thus reveals to all of the primitive people that there's the Enterprise, and they draw it in the sand like it's a god, and now we're in a Next Generation episode. They did this in the Next Generation. And the whole plan could have been easily avoided if they just kept the Enterprise in fucking outer space. You don't need it under the water. You could have saved so much. You could have stopped so many headaches just by doing that. But no, you had to get it under the water. I don't know why, because it looks cool coming out, but like from a story perspective, there's no reason to do it other than Kirk's a dumbass. And that's the first scene of the movie. And really the point of this is that Spock, because he's Spock, files a report to Pike about what happened, and so Pike is forced to demote them back to cadets, or at least he says he's going to demote them back to cadets. And really what this is they're leading up to the overall character arcs of the story, which is Spock learning to accept his human side and let his emotions through, and Kirk is learning a respect for the rules and what it means to be captain of a starship. Does this sound familiar? It should, because these are the character arcs of the last fucking movie! You're just doing it again! And I'm serious, you get to the end of this movie, and they are no different than they were at the end of the last movie. None. This whole movie's just the franchise spinning its wheels until it comes up with something new to do. Just this. But anyway, he sends in the thing because he can't lie because he's a Vulcan and he can't do it for Kirk, and Kirk gets mad at him, and they get demoted to cadets. Except then they're immediately like Spock is made second in command of the USS Bradley, I think it was, or Bradbury. I can't remember if it's Bradley or Bradbury. I like to think it's Bradbury, but actually no, it's probably Bradley. It doesn't matter. The ship never appears. And Kirk is made second officer on the Enterprise because Pike is the captain of the Enterprise, and you see where this is going. And I was disappointed by this because what I thought was going to happen was we were going to have a scene where we see everyone on the crew getting sort of sent off to different places, and then we do sort of the Star Trek 3 thing where in order to get John Harrison, they have to sneak on board the Enterprise and steal it, like they did in Star Trek 3, which would have been kind of cool. That would have been a cool scene, but no, Kirk's just made second in command of the Enterprise. Spock has moved, and everyone else, I think, stays on the ship. But anyway, while all this is going on, Mickey from Doctor Who, that was actually weird. It shouldn't be. Like, you're not going to know it's him unless you watch Doctor Who. But the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm looking at him going, like, is that Noel Clarke? Looks like him. I don't know, that was weird for me. I'm not holding that against the movie. But he has a sick daughter, and John Harrison shows up and says, I can heal your daughter. By the way, they have a scene, so many people laughed when this happened. I laughed. And here's what it is. They have John Harrison in the shadows approach Mickey and go, I can help your daughter. And Mickey goes, who are you? And then the con shows that it's Benedict Cumberbatch, and the choir just shows up going like, like just the Darth Maul choir from Star Wars Episode 1, and it's so over the top, and he's just standing there smiling like, I can't do the face, but he's just standing there giving like that Benedict Cumberbatch smirch, and we're like, we don't know who he is yet. You haven't revealed it. Like, okay, we know who it is. It's Khan. But we don't know. We're not supposed to know that yet. Like, it's not a big deal. We knew he was going to be in the movie. It's not a reveal. Oh my God, Benedict Cumberbatch is in this movie. Oh my God. Like, I don't know. That struck me as odd. I lost my place. Anyway. So he says, I will heal your daughter, but you have to go blow up this library. And Mickey's like, okay. And then he does. And Khan, they have a thing they set up where Khan takes his blood. We see him taking his blood out, giving it to Mickey. Mickey gives it to his daughter, and his daughter's okay. And I want you to remember that, because that's going to come up later, and I'm going to have such a shit fit when it does. But anyway, so he blows up the library, and apparently when the library blows up, it is standard procedure for all high-ranking officers in Starfleet at the time to get together for a meeting. I'm not sure why, especially since we exist in a universe with comms. Like, you can set up a private comm channel. Having you guys in the room is dangerous. Like, you guys do realize that. And of course, Kirk is the only one who can figure out that that is a stupid plan, and it turns out that was what Khan wanted all along, because then he flies over with the ship and goes through the very, very logical procedure of gunning everyone down. And they kind of explain why he did it, but it doesn't make sense when you find out why. But anyway, he guns everyone down. Kirk manages to take out the ship with a fire hose, which, I guess that was kind of cool. I don't know. It really, more than anything else, it just kind of indicated to me how stupid it was to try and attack them with a single flying character. Like, do they not have turrets? why wouldn't you move to a bunker or somewhere safe? Like, it's a terrorist attack. You know what happens when a terrorist attack happens here? We move all of our high-ranking government officials to bunkers. We do not get all the military personnel like get to their own bunkers. We do not move them to these rooms on 20-foot high buildings and just 20-story high buildings with just 20 feet would actually be a very short building, but 20-story buildings and just and so Kirk takes out the thing, but Khan transports away with a transporter. That's they later say Simon Pegg shows up and says, like, they used my design. They took my the thing that I made with I think it's the thing he made with Spock. Something I should mention is the sound mixing on this movie, because it is atrocious. There were several different occasions in this movie where I had absolutely no idea what anyone was saying, because the music and sound effects were so loud they were actually covering up any dialogue, and not just during the action scenes, during regular conversation. The music was just so loud, and it all just sort of creates a white noise that you can't decipher. And that got to be a big problem, because it meant that a lot of the plot made a lot of the plot very hard to follow, especially since it gets very convoluted as it goes. But anyway, Scotty says he used this transporter thing that he had, and by the way, to escape to Kronos, several galaxies away. And by the way, it makes you wonder why they have ships if they have these transporters, and they go and I've heard arguments maybe they confiscated it. Why? Why would Starfleet confiscate it? Why wouldn't they want research done on it so they could make these transporters? You wouldn't need ships. It would be so much easier. Or I guess you could use ships for military missions, but you wouldn't need for exploration. You could just teleport someone there, or teleport you could do what they did in Stargate, where you teleport little camera bots down there and check the place out, and then you can send people to check the place out. You wouldn't need ships. Why? I don't know. That also, I don't buy it. I don't buy that the transporter can just teleport you galaxies away instantly. And I'm confused as to who did it. If Khan had it there, or if he had a buddy do it. I don't think he had a buddy do it. He probably did it there. Because they pull it out of the wreckage. So Khan transported himself galaxies away with one transporter in the thing. Aren't transporters also huge? How he had one. I don't know. This whole thing felt very implausible. Just the level of technology needed to do it in such a compact space, doing something so ridiculous. But anyway, I skipped over this, I think, but Pike dies, and Kirk is very upset for about 30 minutes of the rest of the movie. After that, it almost barely becomes a plot point anymore. He's just dead. And they discover that he's on Kronos, and they go to this admiral, played by Peter Weller. And they say he's transported to Klingon space, and we can't go there because tensions are so high between us and the Klingons that we might start a war. And instantly, I and everyone else in the audience pegged the admiral as evil, and he is. Shocking. And he shows up and he goes war with the Klingons is inevitable. It's not so much an if we go to war, it's a when we go to war. But there's one thing that I want to bring up, because no one else seems to have noticed this. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm seeing things that aren't there, but I could have sworn I'm right on here. The bigger Enterprise that you see in the trailers, the big dark Enterprise, is not Khan's, it's this evil admiral's. and it is the USS Avenger. I think it is. I don't think they mention it by name in the movie, but I think in the credits they call it that. It's the USS Avenger, and it's a secret ship that he's building, like without the knowledge of Starfleet, just completely his, on Jupiter where no one's looking. And it's such a secret ship, it's such a big secret that no one can know about it, that he has a fucking model of it on his desk! It's there! They do a close-up on it, it's in the foreground, it's on his desk! Like, how fucking stupid are you? And I think that they're trying for, like, foreshadowing with this, because they put it very prominently in the foreground. And when they reveal what it is, all I could think of was, like, did people walk into his office, like, people building spaceships, and going, hey, that looks like a really cool ship. What is it? Like, some sort of Vulcan ship? Or what is it? Why would you do that? Why? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's actually another ship. I'm getting it confused, but it sure as fuck all looked like that ship. You know, a big black Enterprise. That's what it looked like. But anyway, the Admiral makes Kirk captain of the Enterprise again, thus making the entire first 15 minutes of this movie completely pointless. And Kirk makes Spock his second in command again for reasons like they established earlier. Kirk saying, I can't trust you, Spock. And then Kirk goes, I trust you, Spock. Be my second officer. Like, just no character consistency whatsoever. They just need to get him back on the ship. They ripped themselves into a corner. And now this was their cheap, lazy way of doing it. And by the way, that's actually my review in a nutshell. If you want to know, my biggest problem with the movie is how lazy it feels. And that's something else I'll be getting into. But that's sort of the thing with me, is that, anyway, more of the plot to set up. They go to Kronos. Initially, they're sent there to kill him, and they're given 72 photon torpedoes to kill him, which already sounds pretty suspicious, doesn't it? Like, they couldn't have done it with one. I know he's on a planet, and they don't necessarily know where, but they could just, like, first of all, that's a stupid way of killing somebody. Like, what is their argument going to be? Hey, Klingons, one of your main planets no longer exists. Funny that. But Spock talks him out of it, and they capture Khan. And they have a whole scene where Khan reveals he's Khan. And this didn't happen during my screening, but my dad went. My dad's a big Star Trek fan, and he didn't hate the movie like I did, but he was not exactly pleased with it. And he says that they have a scene where Benedict Cumberbatch goes, I am Khan. And he says when that happened, people laughed. Because he's this scrawny, pale-faced, blue-eyed guy. And he's Khan Noonien Singh. They call him Khan Noonien Singh. Like, I gotta wonder if in India people are looking at him and he's saying and they're going, no, you are not. If you are Khan Noonien Singh, I am John fucking Smith. That's a horrible accent, by the way. I apologize for all accents that I do. I cannot do accents. I don't know why I did them. I'm going to stop picking apart, like, the little things in this movie. Because we'll be here for weeks, and honestly, IO9 did it. They got all of the major problems with the movie. Go look at that if you want to look at all of the plot problems in the movie. But basically, the scene that I've been building up to this whole time, eventually they reveal that the actually, I'm not going to get to the scene yet. But eventually they reveal that the Admiral is evil. I should not do off-the-cuff stuff anymore. I should have a script next time I want to do a vlog like this. Which is weird because it's a vlog and it should be off-the-cuff, but I don't know. I'm getting on tangents very easily. Anyway, they have the inevitable scene where they reveal that the Admiral is evil and Khan actually wanted to be captured. Which, by the way, how many times have we fucking seen that scene? Like, seriously, we did that in the Avengers, we did it in The Dark Knight, we did it in Skyfall. There's got to be other movies where we've done it, but those three really stand out. And for that matter, like, everything about this movie. You know, I'll address this now. Anyway, Evil Admiral is revealed to be evil. He shows up in the big ship, which kicks the crap out of the Enterprise. But here's what I want to deal with right now, is how lazy of a movie this feels like. Where from the very beginning, even just the setup of the movie just feels like cliches and plot points ripped off of movies from the past 10 years. We're like, what is our main antagonist? He is a cunning terrorist, like in Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, like in Skyfall. Iron Man 3 came out like 2 weeks before this, and they were making fun of that concept. They set up that concept, but then they twisted it. And that was like, we'd seen that character so much that when they twisted it, I was actually like, oh, that's really cool and clever. Here they're just doing it straight. Except that sometimes he's a barbarian and sometimes he's a sympathetic anti-hero, and just this movie sucks. This movie sucks so much. But anyway, they have that. Like, they have all of these, it's a post 9/11 thing. Just like the Avengers and Iron Man 3 and The Dark Knight and Skyfall and all of these other stuff. Like Battlestar Galactica, like 24, like, it's 2013. You're not doing anything original with that. You know, oh my god, we have an evil admiral who wants to go to war even though there's no real proclivity to go to war. I wonder what this sounds like. We have a terrorist attack whose attacks get blown way out of proportion and used for the nefarious plots of people in the government. I wonder what this sounds like. Like, it's just... The messaging of the movie is all cliched. The plot is all cliched. We've seen all of these scenes before. It's just putting a new coat of paint on everything. And it has so thin a plot as it's stringing these together that even the motivations of the characters begin to become very nebulous. It becomes whatever the plot needs it to be, as they just move from one redone action scene to another, and from one redone confrontation scene to another. And it never feels like it gels into something new or interesting, or trying anything that hasn't been done by every single action movie to come out in the past 10 years. It does not. I keep hearing like, oh, but it's fun, and I guess it kind of is. Although I personally didn't find the action to be all that suspenseful. J.J. Abrams, again, I don't think is a very good director. I don't think the action's very well shot. And he has a sort of thing where he repeats a lot of moments. Like, for instance, they have the USS Avenger bombing the shit out of the Enterprise. And every time that happens, someone gets sucked out of a hole in the Enterprise. Like, they just see, and a hole opens up and people get sucked through. And the first time you do that, that's fine. The 12th time you do it, it gets really irritating. And it's not like, people we've come to know and care about. They're just random extras. Like, I get it, you don't want to do the very cliche shake the bridge and have sparks fly up, but you know what? At least mix it up a little bit. Come up with something else. The ship can't break open every time it gets hit. It's not made of paper mache, and we can't see someone get flung out every time. It's boring. But anyway, I'm not going to continue the plot summary. A lot of other people have done plot summaries, and they did them better. Bum Reviews did a very good plot summary, I think, of this movie. It was very funny. But that is sort of the thing, is that as it plods along, it doesn't feel like we're going anywhere unique or interesting or anywhere that really justifies the ticket, that justifies just being fun. If it was more stylized or interesting or unlike other things that I'm seeing or probably will see, then yeah, I could say it's just fun, and I would still be offended as a Star Trek fan, but I could still recommend it if it had more substance to it or was at least trying something. A lot of people complain about Iron Man 3, but even though it is probably best if you just view it as fun, at least they were trying for something substantial. I'm not saying they necessarily succeeded. I think it was sort of hit or miss. I generally liked it, but I don't think it was spectacular. But at least they were trying for something. Here, everything just feels like they're doing it not because they want to do it, but because it's popular. They're doing 9/11 because it's popular. They're doing the plot with the terrorist because it's popular. They have the scene where he wants to get captured because it's popular. They picked the moments with these actors because they knew people would recognize them. Every reference to the show. In a weird way, I'm kind of happy they're putting references in, because a lot of the times, yeah, the last movie wasn't very respectful of Star Trek, and it was kind of nice to hear them make a few references. Like, I like when Spock is in the volcano, he gives his whole "the needs of the many" or "needs of the many" speech, and that's cool. But they do it throughout so much of the movie, and so blatantly, that after a while, it becomes rather clear they're just throwing them in to appease fans, and not even like in ways where it makes sense. Like it gets forced in here a lot. They have a scene. The 72 torpedoes contain Khan's crew, the 72 crew members. Something that I and everyone else figured out the moment that they revealed it was 72 torpedoes. And Khan now wants to steal them from the Enterprise. Which, by the way, here was Khan's thing. Khan got unfrozen by the Admiral guy, because somehow Eric Bana means that he found their ship instead of the Enterprise, and that he found it years later instead of the Enterprise finding it. He found it years before instead of the Enterprise finding it years later. Don't ask me how. The time paradox thing seems to just be like, and we can get away with it because of Eric Bana. Whatever. If they actually did something new with it, I wouldn't mind. But he digs them out, and Section 31 task Khan with making weapons, and he makes torpedoes and puts his crew members into it, which right off the bat sounds really, really stupid. I have these 72 people frozen in cryostasis that I really want to keep safe, and that I really hope to unfreeze one day and become my crew so that we can go forth and conquer the galaxy. I know! I'll hide them in explosives! It's foolproof! Nothing could possibly go wrong! and a friend, the friend who I went to see this with, came up with this idea. He said, like, why didn't... Khan clearly has, like, knowledge of transporters. Like, why not just steal... If he's already stolen all 72 of his crew members to put into the torpedoes covertly with no one knowing about it, why not take them, randomly transport them all over the universe? And he's super smart. He could probably remember the coordinates, or if he can't, he could have them on a personal computer he only knows about. And then the moment he gets the chance, he can fly off and pick them all up. Because they don't need to be, like, they're basically just these small tubes, these human-sized tubes that they're in. It's not like they need a huge thing to keep them cool. They seem to be able to run on their, on their own for at least 300 years. They've been running 300 years just fine. They give no indication that they're in any danger of running out of power or anything. So, and yeah, why doesn't he do that instead of wrapping them in TNT? But that's what he did. He hit him in here, and here's where it gets confusing. It seems like either the Admiral took them or he found out about them. And Khan went on the rampage to kill the Admiral so he could get his crew back. How? No, I'm dead serious here. If he blows up the Admiral, what's going to happen? He thinks the rest of Section 31 is going to be like, well, now that he's given us an instant promotion, let's give him back the 72 torpedoes with the people inside. Give him 72 dangerous weapons in addition to his people, and let him go forth and do whatever he wants. No, they're going to be like, fuck you, we now have them in our secret base, and we will keep them here. Like, his plan is dependent on the Admiral making this stupid move of sending Kirk out after him with all 72 torpedoes. Send him with one. If the Admiral had sent them with just one torpedo, which would have been enough, the Admiral's plan was that he wanted to send Kirk out to eliminate Khan, who is now a liability because he knows about Section 31 and wants revenge and yada yada blah blah blah, but also to start a war with the Klingons by launching a bomb on their territory. He's damaged their warp core, so they can't just warp back, so they'll be stuck there. The Klingons will find them, kill them, and then war will be declared, and he has his super secret warship and yada yada blah blah blah. And that's his plan. But he doesn't need to send 72 torpedoes to kill Khan or start a war. He just needs to send them with one. He doesn't even need to give them any kind of special torpedoes. It's not like the Enterprise is, doesn't have weapons. They have tons of weapons. Just send the Enterprise and they'll blow the crap out of the planet with their own weapons and everyone goes home happy. There's no reason for this plan. The only reason it's there is to help Khan, which he doesn't want to do. And so nothing about Khan's plan makes any goddamn sense. Nothing about the Admiral's plan makes any goddamn sense. The fact that they get as far as they do at all is based purely on the script based purely on the fact that they get insanely lucky. It's like they're lucky right up until the moment the screenwriters go, shit, we need to defeat these guys. And now they're no longer lucky. Like, that's the whole extent of this plan. This movie is so stupid. Oh, God. Anyway, here's something, though, that I thought, I don't like, but that I thought in another movie would have been really cool. So now the Enterprise gets disabled by the far superior USS Avenger, which I will admit is a really fucking cool ship. If nothing else, that ship is a pretty cool ship. It's basically a giant Enterprise, but the controls on it they look both nefarious yet practical. I can see Section 31 designing this ship. I can see even the Section 31 of the old show, of the old universe, designing the ship to look this way and for things on the ship to work the way they do. I can see all of that. I like it. It looks really cool. But it disables the Enterprise. And now they have this plan. Oh, by the way, blonde-haired British girl is Peter Weller's daughter. And I know she's the doctor from Star Trek II, and that's really her whole reason for being there, is to be another reference for fanboys. Although now she's a physicist, I think, instead of a biologist, because Eric Bana. Well, that and to get her into the bikini, because... Well, not the bikini, the bra and panties. Basically a bikini. But she's Peter Weller's daughter, despite the fact that she has a British accent. And maybe I'm wrong, but did Spock's dad in the last movie had a British accent? There's sort of a weird accent. The in-accent families are all kinds of messed up in these movies. But that's a minor point. Anyway, she gets teleported over there, and that I actually thought was kind of cool. She shows up and she goes like, I'm your daughter, you can't blow up the ship. If you're going to blow up the ship, you need me on here too. And they're like, no we don't. Teleport her over. That was actually kind of funny. And that was like, okay, you get credit for that, Peter Weller. You crazy dick admiral person guy. But, anyway, but like now their ship's disabled. Scotty was sent by Kirk to Jupiter because by the way, Khan gives them the location of the ship. Why does Khan give them a location of the ship? I have no fucking clue. I don't know how that fits into his plan. Because what he really wanted to get him to do was open the torpedoes and see that there were people inside. Okay, that's a convincing argument. What's the giant ship going to prove? They can't even get to the giant ship as far as he knows. So he just gives them those coordinates because the script said so. But Scotty did that. He sneaks aboard the ship and he disables their weapons long enough for the Enterprise to come up with a plan. And their decision is that Kirk decides that he's going to team up with Khan. They're going to shoot over to the USS Avenger in a scene that didn't work in Nemesis and doesn't work here. And because Khan knows the ship, he's going to help them take out the crew because he knows the ship and he's super strong. Here's why I think it's cool, and here's why I think the idea of it is cool, and here's why in practice it's stupid. What I like about the concept is it's actually very unique because we have a character who we have a character who, up until now, like, he is the best known villain of Star Trek. Everyone knows who Khan is. Even if you've never seen Star Trek before, you know who Khan is. And because of that, the concept that you're taking a guy who we all know is the villain, who we all expect to be the villain here and be a big villain, and having him team up with Kirk, I saw potential for a very interesting story where what if instead of setting up Kirk as the bad guy who becomes the bigger bad guy, what if we have him as what we think is a bad guy and have him grow over the course of the movie to be a good guy? Like he and Kirk form a sort of respect for each other over this mission to save Scotty. And that became, like, they made the USS Avenger more threatening as it was on the inside. They made the Section 31 people on board more of a threat. And that was more in line with what the rest of the movie was. And over the course of the movie, Kirk gets more respect for Khan. Khan gets more respect for Kirk. And by the end of the movie, Kirk says, you know, I should take you in, but because you helped me, because you saved my life, maybe they have a scene where he saves his life or save Scotty's life or Spock's life. Because you've done so much for us, we're going to let you go and give you this one chance. And if you cross us, we will come back for you, and we will take you out. And over the course of the next few movies, Khan could show up as an ally. That actually sounds like an interesting idea. And maybe he stays an ally throughout the whole way, and you just go in a completely different direction with this character, and he's more redemptive, and he becomes a leader. Or you set up a new scenario where he was a good guy, and you have a war with a Klingon coming. You're going to do it. We know you're going to do it. Maybe, like you do, you have it, the Wrath of Khan again, where during the war, his planet gets destroyed. He and his group settle on a planet, and it gets destroyed, and he gets wiped out. And now this guy who could have been a good guy comes back and then becomes evil again. And maybe you do something different with that. But that opens up a lot more possibilities, suddenly. But it's stupid here because, A, Benedict Cumberbatch is playing this guy so paper-thin evil. And he's been so nasty this whole time. We know he's going to turn on Kirk. Even Kirk knows he's going to turn on Kirk. And of course he turns on Kirk. And the weird thing is that he doesn't turn on Kirk when he should have. As they're flying over, Kirk gets lost, and Khan saves him for no real reason. Like, here's the thing. Khan, by this point, just wants to get rid of the Admiral. And that's what they're bonding over. Is like, Khan wants to get the Admiral and protect his people. Kirk wants to get the Admiral and be able to head home with his people. But he doesn't need Kirk. Kirk needs him. He doesn't need Kirk. Well, eventually he needs Kirk, but he could have... I'll explain why he needed Kirk when I get to that, but I'll also explain why he didn't need Kirk when I get to it. But Kirk gets off track, and he's like flying through the debris. There's a bunch of debris between their ships. I guess it's bits of the Enterprise falling off. I don't know. It felt like a lot of debris. Again, very minor nit point, though. And Kirk gets knocked off trail, and his helmet's cracking, and he's like about to die. And Khan guides him back to the porthole on the other ship that they were aiming for. that they couldn't have taken a shuttle through to do because we needed the cool shot of them in the bodysuits, even though it looks kind of silly. Um, but he didn't need to do that. He could have just taken the ship back by himself. He doesn't need Kirk. Because he's so superhuman. He can take on anyone inside. And they show, once he gets inside, that he can take on anyone inside. He doesn't need Kirk for this. But he helps him. And he and Scotty team up. And they get to the bridge, and he kills the Admiral. And then betrays them. And Spock has this whole thing where he talks to old Spock in a scene that's so completely pointless. I shouldn't even bring it up. I'm just bringing it up to talk about how pointless it is. There's no reason for it. Basically, the entire purpose is new Spock calls up old Spock and goes, "I'm suspicious of this guy." And old Spock goes, "You're right to be suspicious of this guy." That's the scene. That's the whole fucking scene. There's no other reason to do it. But they did. And so Spock defeats Khan and rescues Kirk and Scotty. In the scene that now shows he has redeemed himself from the beginning when he would have abandoned Kirk, and Kirk has had his scene where he redeems himself from the beginning, yada yada. And then we get the scene that pissed me and my friend off that hour and a half ago when I brought that up. That we were so livid, so angry, so full of rage about. Where here's what they do. They do Spock's death scene from Wrath of Khan, but with Spock and Kirk reversed. That's the whole scene. And I mean, it's exact. It's pretty much fucking exact. We have Kirk going in and saving the warp core, and then he dies of radiation poisoning, and they have the whole scene with Kirk and Spock. Actually, like Bum Reviews did a sum up of the scene where they just go, line from Star Trek 2, 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 some new shit, line from Star Trek 2. And that's the thing, even if it's not the exact dialogue, they're basically playing it directly to the way they did in Wrath of Khan. And here's the thing. Here's why that angers me so much. First of all, you do not ever do Wrath of Khan, because you will lose. You will, if you do not want to get in a position where people are comparing you to Wrath of Khan, because you will lose. I'm aware that, like, as per that movie, you're not supposed to believe in the no-win scenario. This is the no-win scenario. This is the no-win scenario. You cannot make a Star Trek movie that beats Wrath of Khan. You can't do it. It will not happen. And the more you try to make a movie that will do Wrath of Khan, the more you're just going to show that you're not Wrath of Khan. You are not Nicholas Meyer, J.J. Abrams. Back off. And also, why would you do the scene? We have the scene. Do your own shit. This is what I mean when I say how lazy this movie is. They don't do anything for themselves. They're just copying from everybody else. And this is the most blatant point of it, because they're taking the exact fucking scene. They are saying, we're so lazy, we can't come up with something, so we're just going to take this scene and do it so close that we hope people think it's a respectful homage. Fuck you. Fuck you. You do not. No. And you know what, the whole, oh, it's Kirk, not Spock, so it's all kinds of different. No, fuck you. If anything, it just highlights how much it doesn't work, because now with the new dialogue doesn't make sense to their characters. It fucking doesn't. I'm so fucking pissed off at this, because you can't do this. This is disrespectful in every way. It's like if they made they're making the new Star Wars movie. It's like you can't make a new Star Wars movie and now have a Sith Lord talk to a Jedi and say, "I am your father." No, they did that. You can't do it anymore. You are done. You can't do that. am I making sense here? Because no one seems to, like, even people like this movie, no one seems as pissed off about this as I am. And I don't understand how you can't be. I don't understand how you can't be all kinds of upset about this. I don't understand how you can't be all kinds of angry that they do this. Because this is both it's treating new people like they're stupid, and it's treating fans like they don't really care. And I was so insulted by this scene. I was just so ticked off that I can't, we strongly considered walking out of the theater, but by that point we're like, it's gotta be almost over. And they have like the whole, and then they have Spock do the con yell, and no. For one thing, you're not gonna beat the con yell. No one's beating William Shatner at that, and Spock wouldn't do the con yell. Spock would not show his emotion like that, and it's not like in Wrath of Khan, the death meant so much because they were friends for decades. They were friends. We had years of seeing these two characters as friends, and their friendship had become a major part of our pop culture. So when Spock is dying and Kirk is watching, we feel everything that's going on because we know these characters, we know how close they are. In the new universe, they've known each other. We've seen them for 4 hours, 2 of which they were not friends, and 2 of which were they're only sort of kind of friends. So the death doesn't have pathos, and we know Kirk's coming back. We know you're not really going to kill off Kirk. When Spock died, we thought maybe it was going to happen. We know you're not fucking killing off Kirk. It's just, they're trying so hard to recapture that moment, and they so don't understand why they can't. They so don't understand what made that moment work. They don't, and it makes no sense for them to try. But people like it, so maybe I'm the crazy one. But then, just when you thought the movie couldn't possibly get any stupider, Khan survives. And the way they took him out was they blew him up. They had his spaceship crash into the Earth, and Khan still is not only living, he's good enough to get up and run away. And then Spock beams down and chases him down and beats his ass. And it's so boring. For one thing, the build-up between the two was actually between Kirk and Khan. For some strange reason, at about the point when Kirk and Khan fly over to the ship, suddenly the movie decides that Spock is the main protagonist to Khan's antagonist. And no, they just switch the protagonists around. But now they have Spock chasing Khan in probably one of the least enthralling chase scenes I've ever seen. It's just like, and here's a sci-fi chase scene. It's not very engaging. I can't actually remember anything about it that I didn't see in the trailers. Like, I know the two jump from one flying car to another, and that's pretty much all I remember. They have a scene where Khan, for some reason, has a real thing for squeezing people's heads, which I find hysterical, because when you first meet him, they try and promote him as like this great tactical genius, and then they just have him smash people's heads. I sort of have like this image of this guy. We will get in there, we will crush the defenses, we will sneak around back, and then smash it! Like, just this... It's sort of like he turns into the Hulk at random points. I find it very funny. But they have a scene where he's squeezing Spock's head and Spock's mind melding, which I don't think you can do while your head's being squeezed, but what do I know? But they have this chase scene, and here's what they discover and why they need to take Khan in alive. McCoy took some of Khan's blood and put it in a dead Tribble. I'm assuming for shits and giggles. I don't know what he was expecting to learn from the dead Tribble, because it's got to be long dead. Like, I'm assuming they didn't just go like, I kill this tribble in the name of science. Like, and they put the blood in the tribble, and then after Kirk dies, they have a long shot of the tribble, and like the moment blood is going into the tribble, we all know where it's going. We all know what they're doing. And the blood brings it back to life. And McCoy says, like, Spock, you need to bring Khan back alive. It's the only way to save Kirk. Two things. One I thought of in the theater, like the moment they said it. The other I thought of shortly upon leaving. One. Why do they need Khan? Like they say that they need his blood because it's he's an augmented human and they can synthesize an antidote from his blood. You have 72 fucking other augmented humans in your room. In the torpedoes, they took them all out. They put them there. They have 72 people. Use one of them. Why don't you use one of them? No answer. No reason. Just, we can't use them. Just for no reason. Because we needed to bring Khan in alive. Because this is about not getting revenge. In addition to 9/11 and responsibility and emotions, and it's not about fucking anything. But they get his blood and they bring him back to life. And here's the thing. The tribble wasn't sick. It wasn't hurt. It was dead. It was long dead, we assume, if they're bringing it on board for experimentation. Can Khan's blood bring anything back from the dead? Because Kirk was dead. Kirk was dead. They established that he was dead and he came back to life. If that's the case, is death just eliminated in the universe? Like, why don't we just synthesize a whole bunch of Khan's blood? They have him alive. They have him in storage. As I said, there are 72 other hymns. Why don't we just keep that blood? Like, research it. Make more of it. We could eliminate all death. You know they're never going to bring it up again. You know, like, that the next time hundreds upon hundreds of crew people die, they'll never bring it up again. By the way, at the very beginning, Kirk says, you know how many people have died under my watch? None. Well, you can't say that anymore. We just saw dozens of people get sucked out into space. You can't convince me that he didn't get a single person killed. Kirk was responsible for his entire career. People died on his watch all the time. You can't tell me that. You cannot look me in the face with a straight face and tell me that. But now they have, like, this blood. Why don't they use it to bring Pike back? They probably have the body. This was, like, the next day. Did they cremate him? There's probably procedures before that. Maybe there'd be brain damage, but the blood seems to fix that too. Why not bring him back? For that matter, how do you keep tribbles? Like, this is before the animated series had that thing where they kept tribbles from reproducing like they do. So now that the tribble's alive, is it gone? Do we have like superhuman tribbles just popping up all over the Enterprise? I doubt it. Doubt that's ever going to get mentioned again. Nope, just quick epilogue explaining how like Khan's alive and Kirk gives his whole mission about going on a 5-year mission to explore space, and just I'm so mad. I'm so angry at this movie, and I'm angry at all the praise it's been getting, because it's not deserved. This movie does not deserve the praise that it's getting. It is not smart. It is not well-meaning. It is not well done. It is not new. It is not daring. It tries nothing new. It is just the same bland shit presented by people who don't even know how to make the same bland shit. This movie is awful, and I hate it. And if you like it, fine, whatever. I don't understand. And I don't want to. I don't care. I really just don't. I'm hoping that this venting's just going to make me feel better. Because I'm so pissed at this movie. And now I'm paranoid as to what they're going to do to Star Wars. This is not respectful to the material. And worse yet, in a weird way, I'm more pissed that you make a Star Trek. Like, let me put it to you this way. It is not the worst Star Trek movie ever made. Not by a long shot. In fact, it's maybe a tiny bit better than the last movie. Maybe. I actually kind of doubt it. I keep going back and forth. It's at least more of a Star Trek movie, but at the same time, it's a really bad one. And it's not the worst. It's not Star Trek 5. It's not Insurrection. But none of the movies made me as angry as this one did. I never felt as disrespected and insulted by a movie as this one did. And you take away that one scene, it's still bad. It's still like a sort of thinly veiled Wrath of Khan with other stuff mashed onto it. It's still not unique. It's still not given that they're all about rebooting the universe and doing new stories. The fact that they're doing the same stuff is insulting to me. And here's the thing. Star Trek has always been about making stuff that other people aren't doing. About spreading messages that people aren't spreading. You know, the first show had a black woman as an equal on the ship at a time when you could barely put a black woman on TV. Like, that crossed out so many boundaries. The Next Generation was about, they promoted this sort of utopian, almost socialist society thriving during a time when capitalism was running rampant and where we were still sort of recovering from communism. That's daring. This movie is just trying to redo all the same crap that all the other movies have done with half the effort. And I do not feel I should accept this. I do not feel anyone should accept this and go, this is okay, this is good enough, this is what I really wanted and what I really want Star Trek to be. This is insulting. This is being handed a plate of shit as an apology. And I don't like it. I do not feel... I felt so mad upon leaving, and I feel mad still. Like, the fact that a week has passed, and I've barely calmed down from it, just, I think, indicates how much I dislike this movie. And again, if you do like it, whatever, maybe you just want regular, bland entertainment. Maybe you're seeing something in it I don't see. Either way, I do not care. You're not winning me over. I do not care, nor do I want to. I just... And I've already given at least 2 ways they could have improved this movie. They could have done this movie with a different villain, and it would have at least been something. They could have just taken away the scene, and I still would have hated it, but I wouldn't have been as offended. I would have just been bored and uninterested. But the fact that you do this villain with this scene in this way is so insulting to me. Is so stupid. I just can't. And that's really all I have to say on this. A new Too Good to Last will be coming. But I felt I should make this vlog because I've been seeing people who are mad. I've been seeing people who sort of agree with me. I have not been seeing people who have really represented my opinion. And I've not had that with any of the other movies that have come out so far. I just felt that my opinion needed to be out there in case someone else feels the way I do, or just to be there amongst the other opinions, just as an indication of what I want this to be. And words can't really describe how I feel. I'm amazed at the reaction this movie has gotten. I am a little offended that this seems to be what the people now doing Star Trek think Star Trek fans want. And I don't think I'm seeing the others. Like, they need to... My dad saw the last one and he was not pleased. He felt betrayed as a Star Trek fan. And he felt they needed to win him back. He didn't feel won back here, but he at least felt they were taking a step in the right direction. But now I feel, personally, and by the way, I shouldn't speak for my dad. He might have an opinion that I'm misrepresenting, or that I'm not fully agreeing, but that seems to be the way he's described it to me. And I just want to use that because I feel now like the next movie needs to be an apology to me. I am not. I need to see in this trailer that they're going to respect this, or I'm not coming back. And I'm not going. I don't think I'm going to Star Wars. I'm just gonna stick with Doctor Who, I guess. I Doctor Who and the Marvel movies. I've been liking those. Maybe Superman. I'm depends on how Superman turns out, but I I do not feel this movie was well written at all. I feel the acting has been overrated. I feel that I can't I've talked a bit about like bits of the action scenes. I can't remember any of them, really. Just vague space battles, and I can remember the space battles from Star Wars. I can remember them from any of the first 6 movies, even the bad ones. Well, okay, maybe not Star Trek One. Was there a battle in Star Trek One? I don't remember. But I can remember from 2, 3, 4, 6. I can remember all of the way the space battles were done. I can't remember any of the action here. Nothing stands out to me. I don't feel it's well directed. I didn't feel it was that fun, to be honest. I'm just pissed. I really am. Maybe I'm just an angry guy. Just some pretentious old it's not what it was type of guy. But if they had done something completely different, I would have been more forgiving. I may not have liked it, but I would have been more forgiving. I'm hoping that now that J.J. Abrams is going off to do Star Wars, I'm hoping that whoever they get to replace him is willing to do something new, is willing to do something unique or take some new take on it. I doubt it. Because that's really what I want. If you're going to reboot this, I want it to be a reason to reboot. You know, the Evil Dead reboot did new stuff. They changed things. And you can argue it's for the better or for the worse, but I would argue that the new Evil Dead is different from the old Evil Dead. And because of that, I can accept both of them being here. I can't... This is not Wrath of Khan. It should not have tried to be. And I feel... I just feel mad that they did it. I'm now going to work this to a close. And just say again, New Too Good to Last will be up as soon as I can. If you want to, you can check those out. They're all on my YouTube page and on my Blip page. Schlock Theater probably won't be back for years, if at all. And hopefully something will come up to replace it, but I don't know. If I have anything new come up, I'll keep you guys informed. And I just, if you're a guy who doesn't know me and was just clicking on this to find out what about Star Wars, and if you were as mad as I was about Star Wars, and you, like me, did not feel that your opinion was up online, I hope I helped. You know, I hope I helped. I hope I helped represent a portion of the community that's out there that felt underrepresented, and I hope that to people who liked the movie, I gave a good counter argument. I explained why I don't like it, and you can understand where I'm coming from. And that's all I have to say, I guess. Peace out, and good night.